As you probably know by now, I write fiction in the fantasy genre, and I wanted to tell you why. I thought that this would be a befitting topic to cover as a lead-in into a new video series where I want to talk about the fantasy genre. If you visit my website, you will see in my bio that I talk about how my brother and I was inventing settings already as young boys. Now, I'll not repeat it all again here, but I think I'll rather add some further reflections onto it. So what is so compelling about fantasy? The genre is truly as broad as the imagination. It can feature any world you like and even go beyond this side of life itself. It is storytelling with no strings. And what is more important though is that fantasy, even more than any other genre out there perhaps, is about heroes. This idea of one person being able to change or save the world, one person grabbing a sword and defeating a dragon, one person who is inside this imaginary realm, yet when done right, we can still find a connection to this character. We can immerse ourselves fully into this made-up world, a world of magic, a world of gods and monsters, where humanity is often caught right in the middle. I'm talking about setting here, and it means a lot, really a lot. In fact, I would say that world building is probably 50% of the work for a fantasy writer. Creating the world of Eris Dune, in which I set the Keystone Bone trilogy, it took me just as long as it did to write the first draft of 100,000 words. As you can see, it's massive. So you have to love it. There's no other way around it. Either you do or you don't. Obviously I do, otherwise I would not be speaking to you about it. I truly believe that if it's done right, then a fantasy world can be just as rich as the real world. That said, I also believe very firmly, in fact, that good fantasy offers more than just setting. The characters and their storyline always needs to be front and center. It is the catalog that propels everything forward. It is just the idea that something cannot be explained by science or anything we know really that I find so appealing. And I know I'm not alone. There is you, of course, and a lot more. The sales of fantasy books continue to rise every single year, and if memory serves me right, I believe I read somewhere that it has even surpassed science fiction, and not to mention romance, which is a huge genre. Maybe it's because the real world becomes more and more rational and super science-like. Yeah, I just invented that word there, but maybe that is what causes us to seek escape into the realm of fantasy. It could also be something completely different that causes the genre's popularity. I don't know, but I was reading it from the very beginning. My personally first experiences with fantasy was the Dragonlance Chronicles by Margaret Weis. I think I was 9, maybe 10 years old, and I absolutely loved it. I swallowed it whole and never turned back. Now that I write fantasy myself, I found other aspects that I appreciate just as much. Because it's a fantasy setting, I can play around with themes of our own world, like racism or sexism or almost everything, but because it's boxed nicely into this kind of safe environment, it allows both you and me and the reader to let down our natural defenses and take the content in much more sincerely. I hope you see where I'm going with this. I'm just making an example, but you see, in fantasy, characters are directly rewarded for making right choices and equally punished for making the wrong ones. What happened to Boromir when he snatched the One Ring off Frodo? I would love to hear your reflections on this topic. Why do you read fantasy? Put it in the comment section below, and do make sure that you subscribe to the channel if this is your first time here. If you want some cool rewards, then I would really appreciate it if you check out my Patreon page. Just click the link, which is also located in the description field just below. See you next time.